My name is Dr. Emily Foster. I'm 39 years old, and I'm about to tell you the story of how my family made me give up my medical career for my sister and what happened when I finally found the proof. I was 24 years old when I started medical school. I had a dream. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to save lives. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to help people. I wanted to heal people. I wanted to make the world a better place. I had always wanted to be a doctor. I had always wanted to help people. I had always wanted to stand up for what was right. I had always wanted to make a difference. I had always wanted to be somebody. I worked hard. I studied hard. I sacrificed everything. I got into medical school. I graduated. I became a doctor. I started my residency. I was on my way. I was living my dream. I was achieving everything I had ever wanted. I was becoming the person I was meant to be. My parents were proud of me. They said, "Emily, we're so proud of you. You've done so well. You've achieved so much. You're going to be somebody. You're going to be a great doctor." My sister was jealous. She said, "Emily, you got lucky. You just got lucky. You didn't work for it. You just got lucky. You think you're better than everyone else." I didn't argue. I didn't fight. I just kept working. I just kept studying. I just kept moving forward. I just kept becoming the person I wanted to be. I just kept achieving my dreams. I just kept helping people. My sister's name was Jessica. She was 2 years younger than me. She had always been the favorite. She had always gotten everything she wanted. She had always been given everything. She had never worked for anything. She had never sacrificed anything. She had never worked hard. She had never sacrificed anything. She had never achieved anything. She had never done anything. She had never been anything. She had never been anybody. She was jealous of me. She was jealous of my success. She was jealous of my career. She was jealous of everything. She wanted what I had. She wanted to be me. She wanted my life. She wanted my success. She wanted my future. My mother said, "Emily, your sister is struggling. She doesn't know what to do with her life. She needs help. She needs guidance. She needs you. She needs your help. She needs your guidance." I said, "Mom, I can help her. I can give her advice. I can guide her. But I can't give her my career. I can't give her my life. I can't give her everything I've worked for. I can't give her my future." My mother said, "Emily, you're being selfish. You're always so selfish. Your sister needs this. She needs a chance. She needs a fresh start. She needs your help. She needs you to give her a chance." My parents pressured me. They pressured me every day. They said I had to help my sister. They said I had to give her my career. They said I had to give her my life. They said I had to sacrifice everything for her. My mother said, "Emily, if you give your sister your career, she'll have a future. She'll have something to do with her life. She'll be happy. She'll be successful. She'll be somebody. She'll be everything." My father said, "Emily, this is what family does. This is what good people do. You're a good person. You'll do the right thing. You'll help your sister. You'll give her a chance." I was surrounded. I was pressured. I was guilt. I was manipulated. I was cornered. I had no choice. I had to do it. I had to give her my career. I had to give her my life. I had to sacrifice everything. I gave up my career. I gave up my dream. I gave everything to my sister. I gave her everything I had. I gave her my future. I gave her my life. My sister took over my career. She took my job. She took my patients. She took my reputation. She took everything. She took everything I had built. She took everything I had worked for. She took everything I had achieved. She didn't know what she was doing. She didn't know how to be a doctor. She didn't know how to help people. She didn't know how to do anything. She was incompetent. She was useless. She was terrible. She was a disaster. She was a failure. She ruined everything. She lost patients. She lost cases. She lost respect. She lost everything. She destroyed everything I built. She ruined everything I worked for. She wasted everything I had done. She destroyed my reputation. She destroyed my future. I watched her destroy my career. I watched her ruin my reputation. I watched her waste everything I had built. I was devastated. I was hurt. I was angry. I was broken. I was destroyed. I said, "Mom, Jessica destroyed my career. She lost everything. She didn't even try. She didn't even care. She didn't even try to be a good doctor." My mother said, "Rachel, you can't blame her. She just wasn't ready. She needed more time. She needed more support. She needed more help. She needed more guidance." I didn't go back to medicine. I couldn't. I had no reputation. I had no patience. I had no future. I had nothing. I had lost everything. I had lost my career. I had lost my life. I worked minimum wage jobs. I struggled. I survived. I worked at a coffee shop. I worked at a grocery store. I worked at anything I could find. I did anything I could to survive. I did anything I could to make ends meet. I didn't complain. I didn't ask for help. I just kept going. I just kept surviving. I just kept living. I just kept breathing. My parents didn't help me. They didn't care. They only cared about Jessica. They only cared about themselves. They only cared about her success. They only cared about her happiness. I started over. I started from nothing. I rebuilt my life. I rebuilt my career. I rebuilt everything. It took 5 years. It was hard. It was painful. It was exhausting. It was the hardest thing I had ever done. It was the most difficult thing I had ever experienced. It was the worst time of my life. But I did it. I rebuilt everything. I rebuilt my life. I rebuilt my career. I rebuilt my future. I rebuilt everything I had lost. I started a new practice. It was small. It was simple. But it was mine. It was my own. It was everything I had ever wanted. It was my second chance. When I was 35, I started to suspect something. I started to suspect that my parents had never wanted me to succeed. I started to suspect that they had planned everything. I started to suspect that they had betrayed me. I started to suspect that everything was a lie. I noticed things. I noticed that my mother was always pushing me to give up my career. I noticed that my father was always supporting Jessica. I noticed that Jessica was always getting everything she wanted. I noticed that my parents never talked about my career. I noticed that they always changed the subject when I brought it up. I started to ask questions. I said, "Mom, why did you make me give up my career? Why didn't you let me keep it? Why did you take everything from me?" My mother said, "Emily, we were trying to help you. We were trying to protect you. We were doing what was best for everyone. We were doing what was best for you." I said, "Mom, it wasn't best for me. It wasn't best for my career. It was best for Jessica. It was best for you. It was never about me. It was always about Jessica." I was 39 years old when I got a call from a former patient. Her name was Mrs. Patricia Henderson. She was 75 years old. She had been a patient of mine 10 years ago. She had been one of my first patients. She had trusted me. She had believed in me. "Emily," she said, "I have something for you. Something I've been keeping for 10 years. It's a file. A file on your sister. A file on your parents. A file on everything they did to you." I said, "What file? What are you talking about?" She said, "Your mother came to me 10 years ago. She asked me to stop seeing you as a doctor. She told me you were unreliable. She told me you were unprofessional. She told me you were going to fail. She told me you were a bad doctor." I was shocked. I was hurt. I was angry. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I couldn't believe my own mother would do this to me. I met her. She handed me a file. It was thick. It was full of papers. It was full of everything. It was full of the truth. It was full of the proof. "Emily," she said, "I've been keeping this for 10 years. I wanted someone to know the truth. I wanted you to know the truth. I wanted you to know what your family did to you." I opened the file. I started reading. I couldn't stop. The first page was a summary. A single sheet of paper that listed everything. Everything they had done. Everything they had taken. Everything they had destroyed. Everything they had lied about. Summary of professional sabotage and career destruction of Dr. Emily Foster. I read the words. My heart stopped. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I couldn't feel. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Professional sabotage. Mrs. Foster contacted Emily's patients. She told them Emily was unreliable. She told them Emily was unprofessional. She told them Emily was going to fail. She sabotaged Emily's career. She destroyed Emily's reputation. Emotional manipulation. Mrs. Foster manipulated Emily into giving up her career. She pressured her. She guilted her. She made her feel like she had no choice. She destroyed her confidence. She destroyed her self-esteem. Financial control. Mr. and Mrs. Foster used their financial control to force Emily's decision. They threatened to cut off support. They threatened to disown her. They made her believe she had no choice. They made her believe she was helpless. Family betrayal. Emily's parents and sister conspired against her. They planned everything. They took everything. They destroyed her career. They destroyed her life. They destroyed her future. I turned the page. Behind the summary were the details. Page after page after page of evidence. Each one a knife in my heart. Each one a piece of my life. Each one a piece of the truth. Mrs. Foster came to me. She said her daughter Emily was unreliable. She said she was unprofessional. She said she was going to fail. She asked me to stop doing business with her. She asked me to stop seeing her as a doctor. Mrs. Foster called me again. She said her other daughter Jessica was much more capable. She said Jessica would be taking over Emily's career. She said I should do business with Jessica instead. She said Jessica was a better doctor. Mrs. Foster told me Emily was having mental health issues. She said Emily couldn't handle the pressure. She said she was worried about her daughter. She was lying. She was always lying. Mr. Foster called me. He said Emily was making a mistake. He said she was being selfish. He said she was destroying the family. He was lying. He was always lying. Jessica Foster came to me. She said she was Emily's sister. She said she was taking over the practice. She said she would be handling all of Emily's cases. She was lying. She was always lying. I documented everything. I documented everything they did. I wanted someone to know the truth. I wanted Emily to know the truth. I wanted her to know what her family did. I wanted her to know everything. I read the entire file. I cried. I couldn't stop crying. I cried for hours. I cried until I had no tears left. I cried until I was empty. I cried until I was nothing. I realized everything. My mother had sabotaged me. She had turned my patients against me. She had destroyed my reputation. She had taken everything from me. She had destroyed my career. She had destroyed my life. I called Mrs. Henderson. I said, "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me what was happening? Why did you let me suffer all these years?" She said, "I didn't know how. I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't think you were ready. But I think now you are. I think now you can handle the truth." I said, "Mrs. Henderson, thank you. Thank you for keeping the file. Thank you for telling me the truth. Thank you for giving me my life back." I went to my mother's house. I had the file in my hand. I had the proof. I had everything. I had the truth. My mother was in the kitchen. She was cooking dinner. She didn't look up when I walked in. She said, "Emily, what are you doing here? You didn't call. You never call anymore." I said, "Mom, we need to talk." I placed the file on the counter. I said, "Mom, do you know what this is?" She looked at it. She said, "What is this? What are you talking about?" I said, "This is a file from Mrs. Henderson. It's a file on you. It's a file on everything you did to me. It's a file on all your lies. It's a file on your sabotage." I started reading from the file. I read about the sabotage. I read about the manipulation. I read about the lies. I read about everything. I read about the truth. My mother's face turned pale. She said, "Emily, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're trying to do to me." I said, "Mom, I have proof. I have evidence. I have everything. You sabotaged me. You turned my patience against me. You destroyed my reputation. You took everything from me. I went to my sister's house. She was living in a big house. She had a new car. She had everything. She had my career. She had my life. She had my future. I said, Jessica, I know everything. I know you took my career. I know you ruined it. I know our parents helped you. I know everything. She said, Emily, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't take anything. I worked for everything. I earned everything. I deserve everything. I said, Jessica, I have proof. I have evidence. I know everything. You took my career. You took my patience. You took my reputation. You destroyed my dream. I never spoke to my mother again. I never spoke to my father again. I never spoke to Jessica again. I never wanted to see them again. I never wanted to hear their voices again. I never wanted to think about them again. I moved on. I rebuilt my life. I found happiness. I found peace. I found my career. I found my dream. I found everything I had lost. I rebuilt my career. I rebuilt my reputation. I rebuilt everything. I rebuilt my dream. I started my own medical practice. It was small. It was simple. But it was mine. It was my own. It was everything I had ever wanted. I helped people. I saved lives. I made a difference. I healed people. I became the doctor I always wanted to be. I achieved my dream. I started to heal. I started to let go. I started to move on. I started to forgive. I started to forget. I started to live. I went to therapy. I talked to someone. I worked through my pain. I worked through my anger. I worked through everything. I worked through my past. I worked through my trauma. I learned to forgive. I learned to let go. I learned to move on. I learned to live. I learned to love. I learned to be happy. I learned to be free. I found peace. I found happiness. I found love. I found everything. I found my life. I found my future. I found my joy. If you've ever been forced to give up your dream for someone who didn't deserve it, I want you to hear something. You didn't deserve what happened to you. You didn't deserve to be used. You didn't deserve to be manipulated. You didn't deserve to be taken advantage of. You deserve to have your own dreams. You deserve to have your own future. You deserve to have your own life. My name is Dr. Emily Foster. I'm 39 years old. I gave up my medical career for my sister. And I rebuilt everything. If this story made you feel something, drop a comment below. Tell me the word that describes what you feel. Share this video with someone who needs to hear they're not alone. Subscribe for more stories like this. Thank you for listening to mine.